Dishonored 2 is a wonderfully designed game, wrapped in a bit of a bland story, but sautéed in a well thought out world. I have a feeling a lot of my reviews are going to start out with me saying this, but Dishonored 2 is a game that I bounced off of after a while. I got about halfway through the first one, and enjoyed it, but playing something only halfway through somewhat implies that something must have happened for me to have fallen off. If it was simply life getting in the way, then surely I would come back to it at some point? No, I never did return, instead trying out the sequel sometime later, but I fell off that too. I'd fallen off both games in the series, and didn't really have a great desire to return. I was a little peeved by this, to be honest. Not only is it critically held in high regard, but within the community too, and especially within the small circle of friends whose opinions on games I truly value. Why did I keep falling off, and what the hell was I missing? Turns out it was the same answer for both questions. The immense freedom that Dishonored 2 has on offer. Hello everyone, my name is Stone Skeleton, and this is my review of Dishonored 2. Dishonored 2 is a first-person stealth action game, developed by Arcane Studios in 2016. You play as either Corvo Atano, the protagonist of the first game, or his daughter, Empress Emily Caldwin. During a remembrance for Emily's assassinated mother, the throne room is then invaded by a woman claiming to be the rightful empress. Her name is Delilah, and she will be our big bad. After choosing your character, the remaining character will be turned to stone by Delilah with some kind of magic. Your chosen character will be branded as a murderer or assassin, and they'll be forced to flee the city. During your escape, you will find a note from someone claiming to know an old associate of Corvo, who is offering passage to the city of Kanaka, so that you may hopefully clear your name and resume life as normal. Your voyage is interrupted, though, by an otherworldly force calling himself the Outsider. He grants you the power to clear your name, avenge whoever your stone buddy was, and make it back to the throne room by dinner time. Or at least, before Delilah can execute her plan. The story of Dishonored 2 is functional, and is a good excuse to get you out into the world, but don't go looking for anything too deep here. As you explore Kanaka, your chosen character will often comment of their surprise at how the common man is treated. Descended from the ivory tower of the capital, both characters will experience self-discovery, while also learning what it means to rule. I've beaten the game twice now, and I still don't really understand what the Outsider's deal is. This doesn't really bother me though, as I have full trust in Arcane that while I don't have all the information, the stuff that is important to his character is there to be discovered by the inquisitive. He has a real trickster god vibe to him, playing people against each other for his own amusement, and occasionally maybe getting burned himself. It's the powers that he imparts that are truly important. In Dishonored 2, you have the power to teleport, slow time, cause distraction, and even possess both the living and the dead to reach your goals. You will need these powers as you spend your time prowling rooftops, observing enemies, disabling or rewiring static defenses to your side, all while finding an infiltration point that suits your chosen powers and playstyle. Avoiding enemies and traps is one thing though, but the real fun comes from exacting your plan and dealing with how it turns out, for better or for worse. This is a game that will test safe scummers, as more often than not, outsmarting the emergent chaos from a misstep is far more fun than outsmarting a situation completely. There are a lot of variables that will be thrown at you, such as guard towers, impassable gates, and even deadly blood skeeto swarms to deal with. Yes, I know I've listed a lot of things. I was previously one of the mentioned save scummers, and I think letting go of that is what unlocked my potential to enjoy the genre as a whole. Dishonored 2 falls under the umbrella of what most would call an immersive sim. To put it short, and then to follow with an unnecessarily long elaboration, an immersive sim is a game that when the player asks, "Can I?" the game responds with "Yes." This is achieved with careful and meticulous level design. Not only do the developers have to account for what they know can go wrong, they have to account for the infinite creativity of the player base. If something can go wrong, it will. This genre requires a developer that not only trusts its own ability to create an interesting gameplay ecosystem, but to trust the player to have fun however they choose. The classic example of this done badly is Rockstar's just general design philosophy, where you are free to get to a mission however you please, but once you are on that mission, breathing, when not indicated by the script, will give you a mission failed screen. A careful balance of permissive and prescriptive gameplay is required to avoid letting a new player's experience be tarnished by discovering something that could be too game-breaking too fast. At the same time, the game must still answer the question of can I with yes. This is what an immersive sim is to me, and by using those criteria, Dishonored 2 passes with flying colours. Other games that come up while talking about Dishonored are Half-Life and the Thief series. While not an immersive sim itself, the influence of the former is profoundly clear, mainly in the art style. It is no coincidence, artist Viktor Antonov, having worked as the art director on Half-Life 2, was also a visual designer on the original Dishonored, continuing in a consulting position for Dishonored 2. The other connection is probably a bit clearer to those that have played both Thief and Dishonored. But alas, I may have tried Thief once or twice in my years, but I do not recall it in any meaningful way. So without that connection, Dishonored conjured comparisons to another game in my mind, Hitman 2016. Neither game can be considered open world, yet both Dishonored 2 and Hitman offer up worlds that are far denser and more alive than most other open worlds. Also, in both games you are required to usually approach spaces from an exterior location, and you are often also required to exit from an exterior location. Something that people who've played either game will notice on their escapes is that, well, there are a dozen other ways you could have reached the goal location. It seems so simple in hindsight. That pipe there, that ledge there, if I just teleported there. They were there the whole time. Your mastery of these levels will depend on your ability to read the visual language that the game has laid out for you. Occasionally these goals will be gated behind on-the-rail story events, which is a sin if done badly, but luckily not only does Dishonored 2 not indulge in too many of these on-the-rail moments to tell its story, but it has a clear, readable visual language. The game will start you off simply, your first moments in the shoes of your chosen character, exploring a few rooms with a few guards. You have a small choice to make regarding a certain captain, and then you must escape a street littered with guards. This is brilliant as it gives the new player a 10 to 15 minute example of what to expect from a level in the full game. In an early mission at the edge of the world, a tutorial pop-up will appear informing the player of a problem they're about to face. A problem that the player will come across several times, these electrified gates. The pop-up details the problem, but as it is a tutorial pop-up, it also gives you a couple possible solutions to work with. There are several, some being simpler than others, and some easier to stumble upon accidentally, but all different and varied, offering unique paths as passage. This is a specific tutorial problem, but it is to train the player to not only look for the obvious solutions, but to explore the level for secrets that may not have been signposted as clearly. After my first playthrough, I went to use a guide to explore some possible solutions I hadn't uncovered on the first playthrough, and I was dumbfounded with what I found. The game continues to ramp up in complexity, increasing the hostility of the levels, and also the intricacies of the interwoven level design. Starting out in the beginning searching for a simple key in a 3-room stage, eventually you'll be sweeping streets and apartment blocks. Then you'll be in a mansion that literally moves and shifts around you. It's pretty mind-bending the amount of ground Dishonored 2 covers in its no-filler 10-hour or so campaign. It's worth mentioning that while you can beat the game as either character, not much changes between playthroughs. It's the amount of death and chaos that you cause over the course of the game that has the most variables of the story. The powers that you get are a lot of fun to experiment with. Both playable characters have their own unique abilities, but even though they are just straight mirrors of each other. You will upgrade these powers by finding collectibles out in the world. This is all pretty stock standard stuff, and it serves its purpose. Speaking of serves its purpose, the story of Dishonored 2 is truly an unremarkable affair. It's just a stock you've been framed story that has the hero on the back foot with the eventual goal of bringing the fight back to where it began and saving the other main character. Speaking of the other main character, I feel like this is why the story had to be so bland. It feels so non-specific and really just more of a reason to get us out into the world. The character's pretty boring too. It's okay. As forgettable as the overall plot is, it doesn't take up much of the screen time. The game world takes center stage. There's a lot of backstory the player can uncover by pillaging the levels, which fleshes out characters and adds shades to the environmental storytelling on display here. But I didn't read every journal I found. I fear that reading and game fatigue caught up to me before I could turn every stone Dishonored 2 has to offer. But as I said in my Planescape review, when it's good, too much is much better than too little. Presentation-wise, the game is pretty good. It ran well for me, but I did run into more crashes than I'd ever like to experience with a game. I don't know whose fault that is, but I do know it happened more often than any other game I have in memory. This almost derailed the whole review, you know. I don't know if this needs to be said, but I'm not a fan of the whole presentation section as a criteria for reviewing. I've yet to craft a real structure for these reviews, and every time I get to this part, I get a wee bit nervous that I can't deliver as a critic, but this is a video review. You can make your own choices, but know if something was egregiously annoying or reverentially fantastic, I'll be sure to draw light to it. This is how I approach my reviews as a whole. Rather than padding these videos out far longer than they should be with things I don't want to talk about, I'd rather these be my experience in however they manifest. On topic though, I do think the art style deserves recognition. Dishonored 2 is home to two of the best levels in video games, but the level design is only part of it. The work that must have gone into making these spaces feel real must have been Herculean, and beyond the call of duty of the average AAA developer. Dishonored 2 is a game of solutions I hadn't even considered, and this is what I think originally paralyzed me from playing. No one solution is better than the other, and complete trust from the developer to find my own way. It was confusing. Dishonored is a game to be played and to be figured out. It isn't a passive experience that will sort itself out if you just keep moving forward. There is a staggering amount of originality and passion on display here. From what I understand, it didn't sell particularly well, despite doing well critically. Apparently it's why they moved on to Deathloop. Next on the horizon for Arcane is Redfall, coming out this year. But in the meantime, give Dishonored 2 a go. It's brimming with creativity and not to be slept on. What game does everybody think I should try next? I was doing Persona 5, but I dropped off about 25 hours. A good game, not for me. Maybe another video there. Started playing Pathfinder Kingmaker, and I'm really enjoying that. But if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know for next month. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good time out there.